What I'm about to present, I have been told by many preachers. I never learned that in seminary. Well, what I'm going to show you is right out of the scriptures, but nobody's put it together. Very, very few people have put it together. It says right here in Luke 32, he shall be great, shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David. That means the law of the land shall recognize Jesus was a king. Now we're going to go back and start at the beginning of Matthew. David was not born a king. He became a king. Now we go with king to king to king. David begat Solomon. You can go back and check this out at the beginning of Matthew. Solomon became the next king. Then upon the death of Solomon, Rehoboam became the king of Judah. He was the heir to the throne of David. The northern kingdom got their own king and broke away from the Davidic kingship line. But the birthright of David stayed with Judah, and it went king to king to king. One thread of royalty all the way down until Judah gets carried to Babylon. Once they're carried away to Babylon, they don't get to be kings anymore, but the birthright carries on, doesn't it? 2 generations later, that bloodline, a fellow by the name of Zerubbabel. Now, Zerubbabel was commissioned by the king of Babylon to take his people back to the land of Judah and set up a kingdom. Well, actually, it wasn't a kingdom at that point. It was no longer a kingdom. It became a territory under Babylon, under outside rule. So he was commissioned to become a governor, and the people followed him and built a temple for him. Well, why do you think they built a temple for him? And why was he commissioned to become the governor? Because he would have been the king, according to birthright. Now, in a royal bloodline, does a prince get to choose who he marries, or do the parents pick his wife? If a prince doesn't marry a woman with pedigree, the offspring doesn't get the birthright. And that's the difference between an engagement versus a betrothal. So we come from Zerubbabel to his firstborn son, who would have been the next rightful king of Israel. The tribes of Israel, as well as the king of Judah. The rightful king over all the tribes, even the ones that have been scattered. And it goes to his firstborn son. So the throne of David is now passing from Zerubbabel, firstborn son. And it ends up with a fellow by the name of Joseph, who has an arranged marriage to Mary. Now I'll ask you this question. Who would have been the legal king and queen of Judah and the scattered tribes of Israel at this time if Rome had not been occupying Judah? Joseph would have been the king. Mary would have been the queen. Now, a little fallacy that's been perpetrated throughout Christianity, that Joseph and Mary were poor. Let's go to the wedding feast of Cana. Here you have Mother Mary at this massive wedding feast telling servants what to do. Do you tell somebody else's servants what to do, or your own? Sure doesn't sound like they were very poor, does it? See some of the errors that we've been foisted on us over the years? Now, Joseph shows up at this registration in Bethlehem with a woman who hasn't been stoned and a baby. Now, the word that you think was taxed actually ties in with a registration. So he shows up with a woman who hasn't been stoned and a baby. Is he going to stand there and try to tell these Romans, oh, hey, that's really not my kid? That's God's kid. They'd have carried him away in a straitjacket. He would have just left it stand. He wouldn't have cast pearls before the Romans. So the actual Roman records would have shown Jesus was the heir to the throne of David. And thus, according to the law of man and the records of the Romans, Jesus had the throne of David. That's why when Pilate said to Jesus, are you a king? And he said, you say that I am. Your law says I'm a king. And you haven't got the authority to try the case. This is beyond your jurisdiction. So now you may know. And this also explains why Jesus or Joseph and Mary fled into Egypt, was to protect the royal bloodline. Now, another little principle, if Jesus had been the son of Joseph, he merely would have been a king, and the Levites would have been higher ranking. But the fact that Jesus was the Son of God made him the king above the kings, and not just a king according to the laws of man. And why is it Christianity as a whole doesn't know that? Because maybe the seminaries haven't taught you how to pray to get your own answers. Take what I just shared with you, address your Father in the name of Christ, and ask Him if it's true. And once you've got a testimony, share it.